Hello, Bournemouth fans. Hope you are well this Monday. Well, Cherries managed to pull out a result out the bag against Manchester United on Saturday in a fantastic performance, which has seen us rise up to 7th in the Premier League. Now, with me to go through proceedings at the Vitality on Saturday is, of course, podcast regular, but this time you can see him as well. And all-round nice guy, Jeff Hayward. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm very good, Sam.
How did you enjoy yesterday?
Terrific. In fact, I watched the highlights this morning on Match of the Day. There is nothing better than seeing a goal and seeing yourself in the background going like that and holding it on screen. Yeah. My son was wearing a green top, which a tip if you want to watch yourself on Match of the Day, wear something bright because you can spot yourself much more easily.
Excellent as well. And Joe, of course, came on the YouTube channel as well, and lots of positive comments about his contribution after the game, which was really great. And it was great to catch up with you as well, albeit in not so good circumstances, with England failing at the final hurdle against South Africa in the Rugby World Cup final. It was dire.
Yeah, it was dire. But last week we thrashed New Zealand, and then we were a bit turgid, weren't we, in the afternoon? So nice to have a flip side, I think.
Yeah, that's right. So Manchester United then, the conditions weren't exactly great, but do you remember that game, first game of the Premier League season? Well, the first match against Manchester United in our first season. We won 2-1, and it was almost a repeat of those conditions. But when you saw the team sheets come out at 11:30, what were you thinking with the lineup that we had?
Well, there's been a lot of talk this week about the formations, about the personnel, and all valid comments. I think we were discussing a few weeks ago about playing a 4-3-3, and would that give us greater flexibility? When you saw that team sheet, though, obviously Eddie decided he's going to stick with the pretty much the same personnel. I mean, probably the one major change was swapping the flanks for Fraser and bringing Harry Wilson back into the side instead of Danjuma. But essentially, you looked at that and thought, he's going to play the same way. And honestly, I was interested to see how that would go. We were talking beforehand about it. And I don't think any of us wanted the same sort of flat 0-0 performance that we'd had the last couple of weeks with that sort of formation. So Eddie obviously had been working with them on the training ground. And I think when the lineup came out, a bit of trepidation, particularly with United having come off the back of 3 wins away from home and a convincing performance against Norwich last weekend.
Yeah, completely agree. I myself, when I saw the team, I mean, I think a lot of fans are willing us to play a 4-3-3 or a sort of flexible formation, but there did seem to be a little bit of flexibility yesterday with Harry Wilson cutting inside a lot more, and that's what he did at the end of Watford. And I think any time he comes through that central spine of the pitch, I think he does look fairly decent. But we started off actually quite well. Manchester United overall had more possession in the game, but it didn't actually feel like that. But one thing that was noticeable when we play Manchester City, I'm going to say the big teams, because can you class Man United in that bracket anymore? Not sure you can. But we didn't seem to give them that respect that we always do to, say, as I said, Liverpool, Man City. We played on the front foot, and that was really pleasing to see, wasn't it?
I think the Manchester United team that were in front of us, if you compare it to the side that we played last year when we were on a good run of form, and we were I think they were the 11th game of the season. We'd won 6 of those first 10 games last season when we played them, and we were all feeling this is the game we can beat a United team. They were so much stronger last year. You look at the players that they had in that team yesterday. McTominay and Fred do not fill you with any sense of fear in the middle. The back four, you can get at that back four, and as we did during the game, and all we had to worry about was Rashford and Martial and James as their strikers. But they were up against our back four, weren't they, Sam?
Yeah, well, exactly. And it seemed to me, whilst I said we were on the front foot, what I mean is that we were relatively deep, but we were playing on the counter like we tend to like to do. But it seemed to me that they were targeting Rico quite a bit, playing it on their right-hand side, our left. But every time, Rico stood up to the task, didn't he? And the improvement in that guy is just phenomenal.
I would like to call out Diego Rico as one of the star finds of this season now. The way he's playing, what a transformation. Eddie improves players. I think he's got used to the system. I think he understands the way we want him to play. He's playing with more confidence, and he's playing with that passion that Bournemouth left backs have to play with. Charlie Daniels has it. You know, you're not going to let that guy past you. You're not going to be beaten. He was up against James, and I think early on there were the first one or two times when they got down that left side. You know, he looked a little bit vulnerable, but then I think it was about the 10th or 11th minute where he absolutely steamrolled into a challenge on that left-hand side, and you thought, yeah, he's up for it. And from that moment on, didn't feel at all concerned. He was superb. The back four, the back five were outstanding yesterday.
And I'm so pleased for Steve Cook that he's got the plaudits that he deserves. I think it was Ian Wright, was it, on Match of the Day, that was waxing lyrical about him, and rightly so. It seems to be on Match of the Day they show their sort of 10 minutes highlights package, but when they do the review of the game afterwards, they also include extra footage that isn't shown during that highlight sequence, and you see a number of challenges that he makes that look like a world beater. And I'm not sure whether he mentioned Gareth Southgate, but a number of people on Twitter, the momentum is building for the guy. But yeah, him and Ake were solid at the back. And then with Smith on the right, we've got our back four, haven't we?
They were immense. And I thought what they pulled out in those highlights last night was the teamwork between Ake and Cook. They really understand their positioning, how each other plays, who's covering who. You know, it's almost natural, and that's going across the entire back four now. I think the centre halves understand how Rico plays, as do the midfield. I thought Rico got a lot of really great support from Billing in particular on that left hand side, supporting him yesterday. And just though that combination of the back four with Ramsdale behind, you know, it is solid. The last three games, solid. And Rashford and Martial, we limited them to 4 shots. Their XG yesterday was less than 1. I mean, their international strike force, not a patch on our defence.
Yeah, and it was so good to see the goal drought ended. We had chances before that, though, and one of the goals reminded me of Watford last season in that mad 3-3 game at Dean Court. The ball started on the right-hand side, and as it happened, it worked its way out to the left. In that match, it was a series of dummies that got it out to Fraser, but this time the ball was fed to King, and that was a really good chance. Fraser played it. It was a bit of a tame shot in the end. However, it started off in a position deep in our own half. And, against the quality sides, it's very difficult to break through like that, which maybe indicates how poor Man United were in the middle of the park, but also how excellent we were as well. And it was that counter-attacking style that we just love to see back at Dean Court, isn't it?
It was moving the ball at pace, and that's what we're good at. There were several things I thought that you could pick out yesterday. You're right, the way we got the ball forward much more quickly was really interesting to see, and I think that ran throughout the team. There was an urgency about how we got that ball upfield, which was really pleasing to see. And there was another thing that I haven't seen much this season, where the ball comes in from the flank to the midfield player. And in that position, do you remember Arthur in the Championship used to play left-footed, right-footed through balls down the channels instinctively, first time? And Billing did that yesterday for Wilson and for King a couple of times. And it just makes such a difference. And Wilson and King were making those runs, and almost like, they were instinctively ball in first time, channel behind the centre halves and pulling them out of the penalty area. That happened a number of times. Haven't seen that much this season, so that was really pleasing to see. And I think the way that we were much more fluid last week and against Norwich, it felt all a bit static. The players were in those positions and stuck in those positions, whereas yesterday Wilson was coming in from the flank and playing almost like a number 10. And they were swapping flanks, even Wilson and Fraser at times, which was really good to see. United were thrown by that. They didn't know how to cope with it. And the goal itself was part of that kind of overloading of the flanks We had Wilson, Fraser, Adam Smith all over there on that right-hand side. United didn't know what was going on. Chaos.
Yeah, that's right. And as you say, the swapping of the flanks, Fraser on the right-hand side at that point. I think it all started with Rico on the left. He played a low ball seemed to be the order of the day. We had a couple of chances manufactured in the second half where Callum Wilson put Harry Wilson in, etc. But obviously the conditions weren't great. You'll have seen that goal kick that Aaron Ramsdale had in the second half that started looked like it was going out into the main stand and then pretty much ended in the east stand. It was crazy. But as you say, the goal, from the left, worked over to the right-hand side. Lovely bit of combination play. Cross came over, and Josh King chested it, used his strength to hold off his markers, and then sort of knowing that he was getting touches on his back on the right-hand side from Wan-Bissaka, just put it over his head to the left, turned and shot into the ground. What a great goal that was. But I don't know about you, but from where I was in the North Stand, it felt like it was an eternity before the ball came down to Josh King.
I was half expecting a VAR check for the amount of time that stood still while he did that, because honestly, it was bonkers. The Manchester United defender, I mean, we talked about our defence playing as a unit. Their defence played as individuals, I think. Wan-Bissaka, Maguire, Lindelof and Ashley Young, they're all fine players as individuals, but you watch that goal again and you think, well, Wan-Bissaka, number one, he was left pretty much one-on-one for like 10, 15 seconds against King. And King did, spin him really well and volleyed really well and a great goal. However, he's being watched by Lindelof, he's being watched by McTominay, he's being watched by Maguire. They're all sort of staring at it thinking, what are you doing? You can't just leave the guy 6 yards out one-on-one like that. I thought it was typified where their team is at and where our team is at, a different place.
Yeah, completely. And it was so good to go in at 1-0 up. I wasn't expecting it at all, but what a good time to score. And then we seemed to carry on the momentum into the second half. And yeah, we had a number of chances. We had a free kick on the edge where we burst forward. It was so nice to see that almost reckless sort of attacking that we do, and Adam Smith bursted forward. I thought for a minute it was a penalty, but it was on the edge, and Harry Wilson took it, blazed over, but Rico really wanted that free kick, and as we know, he's got a golden left foot.
Yeah, I think actually we've talked about Rico playing really well. I thought Harry Wilson, that was his best game for us yesterday. He's scored a number of goals, I know, and you can't take that away from him. But his overall contribution to the rest of the team, the rest of the play, I thought was outstanding yesterday. He had several shots. There was one a little bit later, which De Gea pulled off a fine save from. He nearly scored as well when that ball went in from Wilson and King nearly got the bounce. Yeah, so but actually it was just his overall the impact he made to the fluidity of how we played. I thought was different class yesterday, and he was unlucky. I thought that free kick, I was calling it to the guy next to me. I was saying top corner, and felt a bit embarrassed when it was actually nearly over the
row H or whatever it was. I thought he did well as well. It's really I'm looking at a couple of tweets on Twitter, but the sort of naysayers about Harry Wilson are definitely diminishing. And there were a lot of people that do say it was his best game, and I thought it was. And I don't think Fraser had a particularly bad game either. I thought he was improved, and that's all we can ask for, just an improvement game on game. And I think he will get back to those levels. I hope so, because there was that spell where his head seemed to have dropped. And as you say, we did create chances in the second half, but also you briefly alluded to Aaron Ramsdale being incredible at the back and produced a number of good saves, and also from where I saw in the North Stand, I didn't realise they hit the post.
Yeah, that was their one chance, I thought. The one clear chance. I mean, it was the sub, Greenwood, who's one of their rising stars, came on with 10 minutes to go. The ball went over Rico's head, slightly misjudged it, which, it was windy and that it was a foul day to be a defender, I thought, yesterday. But yeah, he hit the near post. He took it on probably his wrong foot. He should have taken it on his right foot, not his left, because he's only going to be able to aim for that near post area. Ramsdale had that near post cover. It wasn't going to go in. Honestly, I wasn't that bothered.
No. And yeah, we ran out 1-0 winners, and I think it was a well-deserved 3 points. But then I looked at some of the quotes after the game in the mix zone. Manchester United manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was chatting to the BBC and said, "You are always very down when you lose, and considering the form we were in, we were hoping to take 3 points. We couldn't capitalise on the good start, and a moment of magic won the game for them. Sometimes you just have to hold your hands up and say, well done." Some of the comments that I hear from Ole are bizarre, really. And you just kind of think, how long are Man United going to give them? Because the fans would chant, I think it was Ian Reid who said in an interview after the game on the fan chats on YouTube that the fans were chanting his name at the end of the 90 minutes. And you just think, what is this blind loyalty they've got? Are they still thinking back to his goal in Barcelona in 1999? It's crazy. But whilst the personnel on the pitch are not particularly great and are no way near top 6 quality, sometimes I question Solskjaer's decisions as well with formation and personnel as well.
Yeah, I think he inhabits a different reality. If he thinks that team is top 4 or should be winning games to be in the top 4, is disconnected. I think from the majority of United fans as well. I mean, there were 2 sitting in front of me in the Bournemouth end after the game who were saying, they kind of half expected to lose because that's where the team is. And you think, hang on a minute, you're Manchester United. There was a chant that rang out, I think it was in the second half, where we were all singing "You're not famous anymore," and that's true, isn't it? That's a mark of where they're at. Where yesterday I thought there were 3 things that stood out for me about United. I think they're brittle in the way they play. They're not a team; they're individuals, and sometimes that works for them, sometimes it doesn't, and it didn't work for them yesterday. I thought their football was bland. Didn't offer anything creative really. There was no kind of inspired football that you saw either defensively or going forward, I thought. And I thought the kit was the most bizarre beige number that I've ever seen, which reminded me of that grey kit they wore those years ago when they got topped by Southampton.
Yeah, 6-3 I think it was. Changed the kit at half time.
Yeah, when you see a team sort of, it was as bland as their performance. I thought just was really going nowhere. Rubbish.
In fact, Man United have lost all 6 Premier League away games where they've fallen behind, and they failed to keep a clean sheet in any of their last 11 Premier League away games. Because that shows you how bad it's got. And he's been given more time than I thought that he would get, to be honest. There was a stage where he started with United, and I thought, oh, actually, maybe he is the man. But when you look at his resume or his CV, it's not particularly great. And to be thrust into this position, you kind of wonder, you are a lucky man.
Yeah, the United fans I've been talking to about this game several weeks ago, they were anticipating that he was not going to be there anymore. And actually, I said to you last week, if Solskjaer's still there, I think we'll win. And the worst thing that could have happened for us would have been if somebody else had been brought in for this game and they'd have had a new manager bounce. Otherwise, I always thought we had a good chance yesterday.
Interestingly, Bournemouth's 4 wins this season have come from the 5 games in which they've had the least amount of possession. Yesterday we had 42.5%. Didn't particularly feel like Man United were dominating the ball. Well, not in the first half. In the second half, they did have a fair amount of the ball in the middle, but they just absolutely had no penetration. But, I mean, it was a deserved 3 points, wasn't it? And to be fair, the scoreline flattered them, maybe?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what to read into that stat. It didn't feel like we were being dominated by them at all. I think maybe just because we're moving the ball quicker and that's a sort of higher risk element to it, but we're getting the ball forward. I mean, I think we had, was it 15 shots yesterday in the game, which is, pretty respectable. And that seems a little bit at odds with having 40% possession. We did play a little bit more on the break than we did last week, but still, I thought we were composed throughout, and it felt like we dominated and totally deserved to win that game, which we did.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so just to finish off, we'll go over some of the players that we haven't touched on so far. I mean, we haven't overly mentioned Nathan Ake, but he's always a solid 8 out of 10, isn't he? Thought he was very good, and for once, it wasn't him that got the plaudits at the end. Usually it is, and Steve Cook's very much kind of overlooked. But again, solid performance from him, and also Adam Smith on the right. On that right side, on that right side of defence, Adam Smith, I thought, looked incredibly strong. And then that centre-back pairing as well. So Nathan Ake, your thoughts on him?
I thought Nathan was superb again. Just the combination, that the two of them play really well together. Their understanding is terrific. You cannot see Ake being pushed out to play left-back again this season. I don't think. Never. It just makes no sense. And keep Cook and Ake together, and we look really solid. I think what Adam brings is that energy that I thought we were missing a little bit with Stacey. You know, that's not saying anything bad about Jack Stacey. I thought he played well when he was in the team, but it's just Adam's got that. I don't know, just that kind of self-belief to carry the ball forward and just go for it much more. You know, he's the one who made the cross for King's goal. He just fills you with a bit more confidence. But I think big shout out to Jefferson Lerma.
Yeah.
Wow, you know, we love that guy. Every week in, week out, he is holding that midfield role for us and playing a blinder. He did again yesterday. I thought he was outstanding. Works really well with Phil Billing. I thought Billing played with a bit more energy and was putting his body on the line a bit more as well than perhaps he did last week. So all across the team, I thought they were heroes yesterday. Really brilliant, except for one player.
Go on. And are you going to mention the C word?
Yeah. I'm a little bit concerned about Callum. I think he was a little bit off the pace again yesterday. He was better than he was the last couple of weeks, but still, it's not quite happening for him at the moment. And it's not been the same since he came back from that international break where he was away with England. And I recall a comment he made at the start of the season where he felt he needed a rest after playing in the Nations League stuff and didn't perhaps have a great pre-season. Well, it feels like he's gone back to that level of playing the first few games of the season. So, yeah, what are we going to do about Callum, Sam?
Yeah, and that's where I think I was just about to make this point, actually, and you've just reminded me. In most of the areas on the pitch now, we have got really good understudies. With Ramsdale, we've got Travers, who's obviously done well in the Cup. Artur Boric can come in if needed. Right back, Simon Francis. And then you've got another level, Jack Stacey. Centre-back, Chris Mepham can do a job, but then there are other players that can slot in at centre-back as well, like Simon Francis. Left side, how strong is that? Lloyd Kelly's waiting in the wings. Charlie Daniels, eventually, maybe he'll come back from injury and be a person who's contesting in the centre of the park. You got Gosling, always an engine, rarely lets us down. His distribution's not great, but he's a disruptor. Philip Billing, Jefferson Lerma, Lewis Cook. On the wings, I could go on. Dan Juma, Ryan Fraser, Harry Wilson. Lots of options there. And then it comes to up front, where you've got Josh King, who also can play on the wing, of course. Callum Wilson, and then Dom Solanke. That's maybe one of the positions where we are looking a bit short. And really, I think maybe down to Dom Solanke's lack of goals is maybe why Callum Wilson is always first pick up front. So maybe he hasn't got that much competition. But yeah, you're right. He looks a bit sluggish. Doesn't seem to get the shots on goal that he used to. Maybe that's down to how we've been recently. I'm not sure. I thought he played a little bit better yesterday. Created that Harry Wilson chance on the right-hand side and always holds it up well. But if you were going to say that there was one player that wasn't the performer yesterday, you would have to say it's Callum.
Yeah, he was just a little bit below par. His touch was a little bit off occasionally, and I agree. Solanke is the obvious replacement, but we all know that he's a little bit short on confidence. Just a word about Lys Mousset, who played that role last season as the obvious replacement for Callum. And there he is being given a run in the Sheffield United side and was instrumental in their 3-0 win yesterday. In fact, he contributed to all 3 goals. And whenever he came on the pitch for us, he never looked quite at home. I know, maybe 1 or 2 strong games. And I wonder whether... I don't know. You know, if you take Callum out for a few games and give Solanke a starting role for like a run of 3 to 5 games, would that see Solanke break his duck, and would that materially affect our performance? Or do you stick with Callum and say he's gonna come good? Just bear with him because we know he's ultimately a class player.
Well, this is the importance of cup runs, really. But whenever we've had cup runs, we seem to just completely lose it. And if we have a run in the Carabao Cup, you can have players like that who can get a certain amount of matches. However, of course, we fell at the second hurdle in the end when we went away to Burton. I just hope we can have a reasonable run in the FA Cup where players like, you know, Dom Solanke may be able to get a run of a few games. But, you know, knowing how we treat the FA Cup, who knows how that's going to be. But So obviously there's always transfer rumours. You know, towards the end of last season, it was Ryan Fraser and Callum Wilson at the start of the season when he scored the goals. Nathan Ake is always going to be touted. Okay, apart from Nathan Ake, who's the player that you're most worried about leaving the club in terms of a bigger club, you know, coming in and plucking him?
Apart from Nathan Ake, that's a really good question. I would say Jefferson Lerma is our most valuable player. Yeah. And I think we could probably survive most other players leaving. But Ake, Lerma, and who knows, you know, the way Ramsdale's playing, I don't want to lose him because a good solid goalkeeper is hard to find, and he's having a fine season.
Yeah, that's right. So what a win it was. Really pleased that Cherry's managed to get 3 points on the board. We didn't think it was going to work that way round, drawing against Norwich and then Watford, but 3 points against United. And then next week, it's off to Newcastle. Up the Cherries.